Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to Barbecue Central.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central show. This is the show that talks about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire, fun, and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening on the show this evening. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, making his second quarterly appearance here in 2026, the barbecue icon, legend, and all the adjectives and accolades that go around with it. Barbecue Hall of Famer, Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer, Stephen Raichlen. A lot of man on fire talk this evening, amongst other things. So looking forward to chatting with Stephen here shortly. Then, after Stephen, first-time guest and the winner of the first ever Open Fire Championship at Memphis in May, Emma Nguyen of the Culinary Charm. Tight turn on Emma. Shot her an Instagram message on Sunday. Did the quick, hey, you probably have no idea who I am, would love to have you on the show, blah, blah, blah. Didn't expect anything back, like I don't expect anything back from people that win Memphis in May. And within 25, 30 minutes, she said, hey, sounds great. Let me know what needs to happen. And I am available this coming Tuesday if you have an open spot. Said, you need to have this, you need to have that, Sound check last night, locked and loaded, and ready to go. Emma Nguyen, signed, sealed, and delivered. So anxious to talk to her about winning. Really, it is charting success for the rest of however long the Open Fire Championship carries on in Memphis in May. From all accounts, and from what I heard from Al Fragoni, a great, successful debut event in Memphis in May. 20 teams, so 5 more than I think the original 15 count were expected there. And I think demand really allowed that particular competition to grow even bigger than they originally planned for. And Emma Nguyen and her team, really of maybe 5, so very small team comparatively speaking to some of those others that are out there in the open fire community, live fire community. So anxious to really get to know Emma and her open fire background. I think there's a lot of restaurant background in there. And how that all mixes into what ends up being a World Grand Championship this past weekend in Memphis. That'll bring a close to the first hour. We'll move to the second hour. Quarterly visit number 2 from our pals Susie and Todd Bulloch from Hey Grill Hey. That's right. We will be talking a lot about what is now the released Backyard Barbecue Hero book, of course. We will also talk about new business. They were also at Memphis in May this past weekend. We'll talk about what it's like, or if they are able to give attribution to any type of crowd-based, fan-based growth when they go to such events. I think they were also working in one of those big vendor tents. I want to say Duraflame was the name I remember the most, but who knows? They could have been with a number of those folks because they are friends of everybody in the industry. So Susie and Todd Bulloch, 14 past the second hour, and then closing out the show. And you probably knew this was going to happen at some point sooner than later. You've heard us mention it 2 or 3 different times on successive shows. Steve Ray, former Tennessee embedded correspondent of this show, but always friend of this show, brought it to my attention. Toney Smith of the PoulTree will be closing the show tonight. Have you seen the PoulTree? I know David Yule sent me an email the other day and said, hey, heard Steve talk about it on the show last week. Heard you talk about it a couple weeks before. Ordered the PoulTree. So he's ready to put it on his Silverback, I believe it was, pellet cooker, and then give me the down and dirty on it. But never mind that, David. I want your feedback, of course, number 1. But number 2, we have the creator, inventor of the PoulTree closing the show tonight in the proverbial bullpen segment. So that's how the show is laying out here this evening. I will also be secretly it went away. I don't know what happened to it. I had a dashboard of the Cavs and the Knicks game, but that's went away on my phone. So now I will have to pull up the ESPN app and check in there as well. Not nearly as concerned through this series as I have been the last 2, because they have played out in 7-game series. So I won't get nervous until like game 3. If we are down 0-3, then nervousness will set in. But that's how the show is laying out here this evening. Stephen Raichlen, Emma Nguyen, first hour, Susie and or Todd Bulloch, and Toney Smith in the second hour. Don't forget, you can follow me socially on the Instagrams, the Twitter, the TikTok, the Snapchat, and the LinkedIn, all with the handle at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight on Facebook.com/BBQ Central Show, or maybe you're watching on YouTube.com/at BBQ Central Show. By the way, we have a new YouTube poll question of the week. We're asking everybody, including all guests, would you rather have creamy or chunky peanut butter? And currently 80% of you are saying creamy peanut butter. 20% of you are chunking it out. Results of the poll question from last week. Would you rather have thin crust or deep dish pizza? And 64% are saying thin crust. 36% are saying deep dish. And we'll start here this evening. And so many of you writing in and talking about the final take from the show last week. And if you don't recall, it was me wondering perhaps where it has all gone wrong between the Barbecue Central show and the Barbecue Hall of Fame. For a quick look back, we went from me initially nailing the Barbecue Hall of Fame in the beginning years to working so well with them for over 5 or 6 years to now getting ghosted over the past 2 years. Gang, I appreciate the feedback. Let's push forward. I will make sure to pass along who gets into the Barbecue Hall of Fame next week. And maybe someday we reconnect, but maybe not. But it was fun while it lasted. Also, many of you continuing to love Mr. J of the Cigar Authority's quarterly visits here on this show. And I agree, a great change of pace. I really enjoy those conversations. And your feedback is telling me that not only are you a live fire lover, but many of you, and it is a growing many of you, are also lovers of the premium cigar leaf. So know that I am really loving the fact that I'm able to bring you 4 conversations a year that really both diverge and meld well with the live fire community, the open fire community. So you'll see more of that through the rest of the year. And finally, everyone commenting on how great the ham segment was with Robert Moss. That's right. I agree. As many of you said, who knew how much history was involved with ham? Really? For something that sucks so much, and I'm saying that in my words, ham sucks. But for something that sucks so much, and few things suck worse than ham, namely fishing and soccer suck worse than ham, but probably only those two. You can't deny it. There is an incredible amount of history. There is an incredible amount of information on said ham. And if you missed it, go back to the show last week on May 12th, 35 past the first hour, and listen to Robert Moss break down ham. International hams, domestic hams, city hams, country hams, shrimp Creole, shrimp gumbo. You get the reference, right? Is there or is there not a ham belt? Did I mention Iberico ham? Still no pressed ham. We're not doing that. Not on this show. Not yet. All right, Stephen Raichlen is ready to go. Before we get to Stephen, I'll talk to you quickly about our pals over at Primo. That's right. What do we love about ceramic cookers? Well, we love that they are fuel efficient. We love that they can achieve a low and slow temperature for, depending on the right weather elements, could be a week on a load of charcoal. We also love that they can get rip-roaring hot for the traditional high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what are we missing in the everyday ceramic cooker lineup? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. We know the two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with that confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Well. Enter Primo and their game-changing oval design. Shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. And when you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to cook on this thing. All the accessories that you want and more, only sold through dealer network, so you're going to get educated as you buy it. Find out where the nearest dealer is to you. To me, it's 20 minutes up the road in Paynesville. And then visit in person, touch and feel all the ovals. Buy the one that best fits your needs. I recommend XL, minimum. Again, no one's ever complained about having too big a grill. Everybody has always complained about having too small of it. It's not big enough. That's what she said. But I'm talking about a grill. Don't underbuy. Don't do it. PrimoGrill.com. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, won't you? We continue to thank Nick Bauer and friends for their support of this show. And we will be back with our pal Stephen Raichlen. Stick around, be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. My first guest tonight, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, an icon in the industry, a host of TV shows, the creator of Barbecue University, a 3-time, no, a 4-time, no, a 5-time James Beard Award winner, a Barbecue Hall of Famer, and a Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer. We welcome back our pal Stephen Raichlen to the show. Hey, Stephen.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. We have a Would You Rather YouTube poll question of the week to lead off. Would you rather have creamy or chunky peanut butter?
Chunky peanut butter, without a doubt.
All right. And
Yeah, I like when I chew, I like to get some resistance.
texture, as it were.
You bet.
Creamy is winning, though, in the YouTube voting public. 75% now saying that they would prefer a creamy peanut butter over chunky. But I align more with you, Stephen. I would rather always have texture on whatever I'm eating, unless it has to be no texture and it's perfect on whatever it is. But I always like to have a little texture. All right, this past weekend, we're going to jump around in a lot of different areas here tonight, so hold on to your hat. This past weekend, Memphis in May takes place. Heath Riles wins back-to-back World Grand Championships on ribs, no less. Any thoughts on that win?
Well, ribs are the quintessential barbecue. Keith is a consummate master, and I think if the world had to pick one barbecue food that embodies our world and the amazing flavors therein, it would be ribs. So I think it was a well-deserved win.
Do you think at any point, because barbecue, I think the concept of barbecue, or what people think of barbecue, at least over the last 10 to 15 years, has been brisket. Do you think at some point, and I'm with you, by the way, I think quintessential barbecue is, to me, spare ribs, not necessarily any ribs, but spare ribs specifically. But do you think brisket has a propensity or a potential to take that over?
Well, brisket is like the Mount Everest of barbecue. It is incredibly hard to get it right. It takes a lot of practice. It's an expensive cut of meat. It's a big cut of meat. But what I like about ribs is I think they're much more varied. I mean, a brisket sort of is a brisket is a brisket. It's Texas seasonings. Yeah, you can do Jamaican jerk style. Yeah, you can do it Asian style. But brisket is really about, it's sort of a Texas iconic food. Whereas ribs, ribs are so incredibly varied. They're done one way in Kansas City. They're done one way in Memphis. They're done one way in Southeast Asia. They're done another way in Argentina. They're in a way, they're kind of a magic carpet that you can travel the world of barbecue on. And I literally mean the world.
Weber made a pretty big splash over the same Memphis in May weekend with the debut of their Santa Maria style grill. Not for release until 2027, but your take on more of the mainstream brands. And now we have really two mainstream brands, kind of the same, but two mainstream brands, Weber and Blackstone first, getting into this open fire / Santa Maria style cooking space.
I thought it was an incredibly audacious move. I thought it takes us back to the day when, Weber was more than just this behemoth and juggernaut, but Weber was an innovator and a pioneer in our food. And I'm super excited to see that they've gotten into this, and plus to me, this is a sign of the maturity of our world of barbecue, because, charcoal grilling, which is where it all began for Weber, that's great. Gas grilling is convenient, but wood is the primal elemental. And if a company the size and importance of Weber is getting into that, that says to me that we're taking yet another giant step forward in the world of live fire cooking.
So the antagonist in me asks you this question. I also tend to agree with you. I like the evolution. I like the innovation. They're not incredibly complicated machines. They're pretty basic machines when you look at them. And aside from the crank wheel, you have the bracero off to the left where you're burning down your coals, and then you have the bed where you're going to place those coals in order to build your heat zones. Do you really believe that the regular backyard Janes and Johns really have any interest in doing this kind of cooking?
I think you'd be surprised. And I think Weber will lead. People will follow. Weber will create a market. Certainly, if you follow social media, even Memphis in May, open fire cooking, it's a big thing. It's the next frontier. And I believe that if you build it, they will come.
Let's talk about this new book set to release October 20th, if Amazon is correct. We have teased it a few times over the past 6 months or so, but it's called Man on Fire of Life, Love, Literature, and Really Good Barbecue. Who came up with the title?
I did.
Yes.
Yep, and it's interesting. My original title was Man on Fire, My Life in Food. Publisher said, My life in food, I don't know, that sounds pretty flat. So I went back to the drawing board and I thought, so of life, love, literature, and really good barbecue, that is me. I mean, life, barbecue's my life. Love, you will meet my wife and how I met her and how she has shaped my life and given me a family. Literature, I think most of your listeners know by now, but if you don't, I started out my career as with a degree in French literature. I translated the Marquis de Sade short stories. I won a Watson Foundation Fellowship to study the history of cooking in Europe. So I came to barbecue pretty late in life, and literature always been a big part of my life. I do your show on Tuesday nights. I do on Monday nights. I'm part of a French book club, and for the last 10 years, once a month on Monday nights, we discuss a new novel that we've read in French.
Wow.
Still a big part of my life. I've done TV shows in French. I learned Italian so I could do a TV show in Italian. So, literature is also part of who Stephen Raichlen is.
Could the title have just been Man on Fire? That sounds pretty engaging to me.
Yeah, it could have been. Publishers like a little tagline to, hook a few more people in. So I didn't have a problem with that.
How long does it take?
By the way, You understand the little pun with Man on Fire. It's like Man on Fire. It's like me. I'm burning with my passion for barbecue and live fire cooking. But it's also Man on Fire. That is, man about fire. Man, what is fire? When did it enter humanity? What is it? How has it shaped civilization? What is its chemistry? What are its physics? What are its cooking properties? So that's the sort of double entendre with Man on Fire.
How long does it take to write a memoir of Stephen Raichlen?
I've been working on this project for 2.5 years, and I would say of that, probably a year has been intense writing.
When you are in the midst of writing a book, I mean, this is kind of your wheelhouse. You're known as the author here. Is it every day for 5 hours you go to a writing room? Is it 8 hours a day? Is it a few times a week? Could you go 2 or 3 weeks at a clip and then you're off for a month? How does that work?
All of the above. I think when you're a writer, you're always thinking about writing. You're always feeling guilty when you're not writing. Ideas come and... the way I prepared for this book, which is in a way the way I prepare for all of my books, I get an idea, and then for the next month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I just write ideas down in a notebook or on little yellow stickies, or I wake up in the middle of the night, I keep a notebook by my bed, and eventually that becomes the outline for the book. And then once you've got the outline, writing the first chapter, or for me, the introduction, that really sets the tone. But for me, writing is still a very unpredictable process. I can't sit down tomorrow morning and guarantee I'm going to write a great story or a great chapter. But I know that, in the space of a month or several months, eventually it'll happen.
Can you write a great chapter and know it, and then have you also rewritten a chapter 10 times before you felt good enough with it?
Absolutely. And this book went through at least 6 drafts, probably even more in certain chapters.
Wow.
So it's, it's a process of refining. For anybody who's a writer out there, the most important thing is get it down on paper, no matter how rough, no matter how awkward, because you can always polish, and you always do polish. But once you have it down on paper, that's the hardest. The hardest thing about being a writer is confronting the blank page.
Looking over such a long and successful career, how are you going through to pick and choose the moments that make it into this book specifically?
Well, first of all, I tried to think about really the seminal moments and turning points of my life. What were the events that sort of made me who I am and propelled me forwards? And then I guess the next thing is I think about what makes a good story. There's a difference between a memoir and an autobiography. And in an autobiography, you write everything and you try and tell the whole story. In a memoir, you try to pick the moments and things that happened in your life that were pivotal and also interesting. So I would say, certain chapters I wrote that were important things that happened to me, but they just didn't happen to be very interesting stories. So I left those out.
What one moment that might have been edited out of the book would you go back and put in if you could?
Well, that's very interesting. So when I first started in my book writing career, my first major successful book was a book called High Flavor, Low Fat Cooking. And at the time, I had been a restaurant critic for Boston Magazine. I developed a cholesterol problem. This was back before Lipitor and all the cholesterol-lowering drugs. And I developed this method of cooking that involved on using spices and flavorings instead of fat to make food taste delicious. So I actually wrote 8 books in that series, many of them James Beard Award winners. But I felt like that chapter was like, is that really what people are interested in? And then my wife didn't like that chapter. So, of course, that played a big role. And that chapter is not in the book. However, if you pre-order the book, and I'll tell you why pre-ordering is important in a moment. If you pre-order the book, one of the premiums that I'll send you, one of the prizes and thank yous, I will send you that chapter, the chapter that got cut from the book. Now, pre-ordering, we're in the pre-order period right now. If you go on my website and you click the pre-order button, that gets you the book in advance. And that's really important for authors because it helps the publisher determine the size of the print run. A lot of pre-orders. Publisher prints more books. That means more books get to the bookstore. I hate to be like strictly commercial because some people have this idea that, writing, it's just this artistic, you're just doing it for the high art, but, it is also a commercial venture. So we have 2 premiums for pre-ordering Man on Fire. And the first one is this missing chapter. She tells you how to cut the fat from your food and still wind up with amazing flavor, and actually little episodes about how the photographer for the book moved in with us for a month and raided my wife's lingerie drawer to get fabrics and props for some of the photographs. So a little racy element. The other is there's actually a little recipe booklet I'm giving with some of my favorite recipes that have never been in print before. So again, it's barbecuebible.com. Pre-order the book. It's a blessing, it's a mitzvah, and the author thanks you and the publisher thanks you.
If this book was adapted to big screen down the road, which actor best portrays Stephen Raichlen?
Oh boy, that's a toughie. You know what? I'd have to say Stanley Tucci, because Stanley Tucci, he's a literate guy. There's a sort of erudite quality. When he does food, it's not just about how it tastes or how to cook it, but he's very much interested in the culture, the history, how it reflects our humanity. And that's very much what I've tried to do in my work.
So to some, writing a memoir could be a signaling of the end of something. This is the last something you give to a fan base or audience that gives them kind of a look behind the scenes that they might be looking for. So what does writing Man on Fire mean for you?
Well, that's a really good question. First of all, let me reassure you, it is not my last book. I have another one in the works called Barbecue University, which in a funny way is a little bit like Man on Fire in that it's a summing up of everything I've learned and done in barbecue, refracted through my school at the Alisal Ranch in Solvang, California. But, I've reached an age where one looks back and also one looks forward, and one realizes that you're not going to live forever. And I wrote this book, the book is dedicated to family past and family future. So I wanted to pay homage to many of the people who helped me make me what I am. My mother died young. She had a passionate story, and I wanted to tell her story. I wanted to tell the story of my grandparents, who were very instrumental in my life. I also wanted my grandparents to know a little bit more, about who their grandfather is and eventually will have been. So it's a summing up, in a way. I had a very good, crazy career. I mentioned I thought I was going to be a college professor. I was a restaurant critic. I did all this stuff, and I came to barbecue pretty late. And I wanted to sort of put down on paper this, if I look at my life now, it makes perfect sense that I am now. But if I had looked at my life when I graduated from college with this degree in French literature, barbecue, writing about barbecue, making barbecue TV shows, never would have imagined it. So in a way, the book is a summing up, and it's a way for me to make sense of my life.
When you look over the industry that you've been a part of for decades, what are 2 or 3 of the biggest watershed moments in your opinion?
Well, one, if I may be a little bit selfish here, I would say the publication of the Barbecue Bible, my first book. I think that was the first serious book on barbecue that looked at barbecue as a global phenomenon, took people on the world's barbecue trail. I think another seminal moment would have been barbecue television, and that started with Bobby Flay and I think his partner was Jack Davis or Jack Daniels. Anyway, that was the first barbecue TV show. That was really important. My own show, Barbecue University, and then, of course, with Myron Mixon and Barbecue Pitmasters. But that brought barbecue in a way from the backyard and the restaurant into this mainstream media world. And that was followed more recently by barbecue social media. And I think what's being done with grilling, live fire, cooking, food anthropology on social media is absolutely enormous, gigantic, seismic in its importance. And finally, I think I really need to mention the Barbecue Central podcast, because you brought together, if you think about this, you brought together pit masters, you brought together writers, grill manufacturers, tastemakers, restaurateurs, and you united this very diverse world into one place where people could come and learn about it. And I take my imaginative and imaginary hat off to you, because that was a really important thing you did too.
Well, that is heart-striking and very heartfelt. Thanks going back to you for mentioning that. Didn't know that was going to happen, but I really appreciate you saying that. Stephen Raichlen is here, of course, as he is for 4 times during the course of a year. Man on Fire of Life, Love, Literature, and Really Good Barbecue, coming to you on October 30th. So please pre-order now. Go to the website, barbecuebible.com, and take advantage of some of those specials. If you do it now, Stephen, always appreciate the time and look forward to speaking to you again in August.
Me too. Grill on.
There he is, Stephen Raichlen, right there. Pro as always, out on time. We are ready to rock. 5 times a James Beard Award winner. And you can get your hands on some of those James Beard Award-winning treats if you pre-order that book right now. So barbecuebible.com, and then click the pre-order button. Right, Emma Nguyen is ready to go. Before we get to her, I'll talk to you quickly about our pals over at Fireboard. The innovators behind Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, Fireboard Beacon, the wireless Fireboard Pulse. Experience total control over all of your devices from anywhere in the world when you're using the Fireboard app. Discover more by visiting fireboard.com or by calling 816-945-2232. That's 816-945-2232. We are back with Emma Nguyen from the Culinary Charm and winner of the very first Open Fire World Championships at Memphis in May. Stick around, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we thank Stephen Raichlen for joining us last segment. Again, barbecuebible.com if you want to pre-order that book. This past weekend was the inaugural launch of the Open Fire World Championships, curated by a friend of the show, Al Fragoni. This wasn't standard low and slow smoking in enclosed pits. Indeed not. This was a specialized battleground at Liberty Park featuring 20 elite teams battling unpredictable elements, massive burning log piles, wild proteins over completely open flame. And here to talk about the weekend and the big win is the Fire Master from the Culinary Charm. First time guest Emma Nguyen joining us here on the show. Hey, Emma.
Hi, how are you?
I'm absolutely fabulous. Appreciate you joining me here this evening. Before we get into the fun and frivolity of this past weekend, we have a Would You Rather YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. Would you rather have creamy or chunky peanut butter?
Ooh, well, I do love a good peanut butter, but I would have to pick the crunchy. Only because I like to add my peanut butter on toast and with honey. And I find it that if it was too creamy, it might just fall off the toast.
Yes.
And crunch is always good umami as well.
All right. So first two guests of the show are also saying that chunky is the way to go. Although YouTube voting public is completely in opposition. 77% of the people watching and voting tonight say they would rather have creamy peanut butter. But what do they know? All right, Emma, first time on the show, and we could probably do a whole 15, 20 minutes on your background and how you get into cooking and all that fun stuff. But I don't want to minimize the events that took place this past weekend. So are you able to give us a thumbnail sketch of what your culinary background looks like, and also who some of the biggest influences were as you were coming along?
Yes. So I actually started in culinary school at 19, where I met my husband. He was also there. He followed me into culinary school, the gentleman that he was, just to keep me company. I was taking night classes in downtown. And I didn't get to finish the first 2 years because I ended up working for his parents. They owned a Mexican restaurant, which that they started that restaurant 30 years ago. But then we got married, we had kids, and my husband ended up going back to law school, where I ended up baking for all of the parties there, which ended up making me go back to culinary school, and I finished my degree at the Culinary School of Fort Worth. But my degree was in pastry. So I have a background in cakes and cookies and macarons, and that's basically where I landed. And then a couple of years later, our children grow up, and my son ends up going to that culinary school where I met my husband. And the first month entering culinary school, he asked me, "Mom, there's a competition that I'm going to join, and I would like for you and Dad to be my sous chefs." And I immediately said, No. I'm a pastry chef. I'm more of like the slow pace. I just want to be in my kitchen cooking with Edith Piaf French music, drinking a little glass of wine, and just peace. I just want peace. So I got thrown into the gauntlet of Cutthroat Kitchen at the World Food Championships. And from there, it just really spiraled from being a pastry chef, going into the savory side of the kitchen, fire, knives, being, chop, 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 quick, being forced to cook all in 1 hour. And so, yeah, it just evolved. It really did evolve to that. And then to keep going fast forward, I know everything's so fast. I could be talking a lot longer here. But basically, my son and I and my husband, we won the first year when we entered the World Food Championships. And we made history there because my son was 18 and 19 when we won the main event.
Is he Parker?
Preston. He's
Preston
Preston
Nguyen.
Nguyen.
Holy shit.
Yes.
We were just talking about him 2 weeks ago when I had Mike McLeod was on the show, and he said, yeah, he's the first two-time winner, and didn't even register until you just brought up World Food Champ. So was that the kid that was helping you get on the internet yesterday?
That was him.
Oh boy, did I miss an opportunity. Well, I mean, you learn something new every day. What an accomplished family of chefs, cooks you guys are.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool because it's all evolving. Like, I started as a pastry chef, I ended up as a sous chef, and now I'm firewoman, and now I've led a team twice at 2 live fire competitions. It's just really cool how it's all evolved from that. I mean, 30 years ago, going to culinary school, ended up as a live fire champion. I wouldn't have, if I would have seen the future, it would have been a little strange to see how it's all evolved.
So last weekend, you don't just win a trophy. You and the team at Culinary Charm cement your names in history books as first ever open fire grand champions at the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest. So when Al Fragoni hands over the grand championship hardware, what are the first things that are going through your mind regarding what the team has just pulled off?
I told my teammate, you're going to have to carry the trophy because I can't.
It's a big one.
I think I'm going to be carrying that. And then second of all, it was a dream come true, actually. Having gone through evolved from pastry chef to sous chef to live fire chef. It was almost like a dream come true for a chef I mean, I like to say that I'm a chef because I've done it all. It felt more like a chef's tasting, and it was a dreamy way of competing because normally you only get an hour to cook and you have to put everything on a tray and you have to walk the food to your judges. But this time around, it was very custom. It felt very customized for me. I really felt like, did Al Fragoni do this on purpose? Like, it was too much of a dream come true. Like a 4-course meal, the judges get to come to you as guests, and 24 hours to cook instead of 1 hour. Like, I had to pinch myself. I was like, are you sure this is how this is going to be played out? Like, I couldn't believe it. It was a dream come true for me.
I mean, I feel like that's probably, totally understand where you're coming from, especially when wrapped in the midst of a World Food Championship setup. But in a barbecue competition style, I mean, you're cooking overnight. I don't know if guys are necessarily allotting 24 hours for a cook, but you're not in covered pit. I mean, everything's open. It's going to take inherently longer depending on if you're hanging or how close you are to the fire, what you're cooking, what have you. So I think that seems to make a lot more sense. How are you able to take advantage of that extra time? Does it go into planning? Is it more time cooking? Is it a amalgamation of both?
Well, so I chose to cook my heritage, which is Mexican cuisine, and we're from the South. And making mole from scratch usually takes a good day if you want to make it correctly. So when I was given the 24 hours, I was like, mole, let's do mole poblano. I mean, but granted, I will let you know that I was able to pull off a Vietnamese mole for the World Food Championships final table in under an hour. So that to me is still a miracle in itself, but which I think I'm going to bottle up because that really tasted amazing. The Vietnamese mole, I'm calling it full leg because we had to do the global fusion at that round. But anyways, but this time around, I could really make the flavors meld, and overnight, anything, when you let things stay overnight, it just tastes better.
So what's the mole secret? Why does it take 24 hours to make a good mole? And what are the key ingredients?
There's, I would say, a minimum of 30 ingredients. It takes time if you want to do it right. And then you just cook it down low and slow. You don't want to burn it. And then obviously the next day, just like anything, if you make chili, the next day it's going to taste better. It's just time. That's melding the flavors,
That's the one with chocolate in it, right?
Mine, where the part of
Mole.
Mexico that my family is from Puebla, it's with chocolate. Not every mole has chocolate. I know in Oaxaca they have like maybe 7 known, and I don't think they put chocolate in theirs. We're the ones known to put chocolate for sure.
Is it a specific kind of chocolate or a regionally special chocolate, or is it like Hershey's?
No, Hershey's.
Sorry.
I mean, nothing wrong with the American versions, but no, it's a Mexican one. I don't do the typical chocolate abuelita. It's more, it almost looks like it comes from Spain, but it's a little less sweet than the typical chocolate abuelita. It has a distinctive flavor, yeah.
Wow, sounds great. All right, so mole's underway and the rest of the dishes, and then so does each member of the team have certain responsibilities as you're marching through that 24-hour period?
Yeah, so I chose my teammates specifically because I knew I could trust them. Each and every one has a passion of their own. Of course, I had my husband and my son with me. I do have 2 other children that couldn't make it this time around, but they were with me at the final table. We all won as a family back over in Bentonville. But this time it was my son, my husband, and my husband's law partner, and David, and my good friend James, who was also a sous chef for another world food champion that they also went to the final table twice. And basically, I told them my story. I said, I want to create a menu that's going to represent my heritage, my home back south in Mexico City and Puebla. And I explained and I gave them like a little background history of how the indigenous people farmed in Mexico, which it's a farmland called milpas. And milpas, the heart of a milpa is called the 3 sisters, which is corn, squash, and beans. And I told James, I said, look, if you can come up with a dish that kind of represents those 3 vegetables, that would be great to serve for the judges. So I trusted all of my teammates to help me get us to the finish line. And so, yeah, we just, and with my son is Michelin bound. Like, that's his goal. He wants to, at some point, open up a restaurant and get a Michelin, whether it's the 1 to 2 or 3 stars, it doesn't matter. But the goal is he's always trying to cook very molecular gastronomy, very modern, but still with a little of the French basics that he learned from culinary school. So I told him, well, the typical Mexican mom will give you papas con chorizo y rajas, which is potatoes cooked with chile poblanos and chorizo. So he takes those ingredients but makes it very French, modern, and does a potato pave with a chipotle bechamel. So I'm like, okay, people will know this is your spin on it. But yeah, I mean, everybody did an awesome job. For the beef, David helped me grill some up on the Santa Maria that was sponsored by Yoder Smokers Grill, and I created a carne asada seasonings from scratch. Gave it to him. We did a low and slow smoke on that. Finished it with the braise, and I mean, everybody just followed my instructions, followed my story, and they, we all pretty much did a good team effort together.
It seems with the team that you have and the accolades that you've already pulled down within 2026 alone, you might have been the sleeper team all along. Everybody else might have been battling for second place.
Well, I try not to focus on anybody else when it comes time for competition. Like, I just want to hone in on what my craft is. And afterwards, I'm more like, oh my goodness, I want to get to know my fellow competitors. In fact, it was very cool the way it all panned out. My fellow competitors next to me and in front of me, we would all borrow things from each other. And I was like, oh, this feels more like, hey, neighbor, can I borrow a cup of sugar? So it felt so nice, just like, forget that we're at a competition. We're just here to have a good time. And next time, I didn't get to try your food, but instead of meeting you at the next competition, I just want to invite you over to my house and let's just have dinner together. And we all had like a little laugh about it. But yeah, so I don't know. It was just very a cool experience being able to compete in this level with very, very high level pit masters. And if I would have focused on that, I think I would have really freaked out. So I just put my head down and just honed in on what this Mexican mom knows how to cook at home.
And you walk away with a championship. From a different perspective, as you're cooking, what kind of foot traffic is around? What kind of crowd engagement is happening? Because I know as Memphis in May isn't traditionally known for breaking protocol. Usually it's just the traditional barbecue meats and that's it. And they try and engage the population where they can. But Kevin Grothe had told me, the executive vice president at Memphis in May, that this is something that they wanted to do. They partnered with Al Fragoni. There was a number of talks in order to engage audience. As somebody who was part of the competition, how did you find interacting with the crowd, and what was the take from them?
During the competition, or well,
like, was there interest in a lot of people like milling around and like checking it out?
A little bit, but I think when I'm in the zone, I do have blinders up, which in a way it's a little sad because it's a 24-hour cook. And but I know usually with the 1-hour cook, I do feel a surrounding around me of people taking photos, asking questions. And when it's at a 1-hour competition, I'm just like, oh man, I can't answer your question right now. But being the 24 hours, I did relax a little bit. Like I said, I ended up becoming really good friends with the guys next door, the NorCal group. And I was just like, hey neighbor, thanks for letting us borrow this. Or they borrowed from us chinois. They wanted to, I guess, put their soup through it. And it just felt a little different. But once it came down to when the judges arrived to our tent, it was go time. I mean, our focus is just, let's plate this like if it was a chef's tasting. What's the next course? Let's make sure the story's being told, that we answer questions. And one of the stories that I really enjoyed telling was about the corn cake that I developed on the Santa Maria Grill. It was an ode to my grandmother that I never got to meet. Her spirit was in this corn cake. She also went to culinary school. She was a pastry chef, but she died at a very young age. And my mother, at 10 years old, became orphaned and ended up at a boarding school in New Mexico. So the only memory she has of her mom is her making corn souffles. And I said, I have to figure out how to get the spirit of my grandmother in this competition. And so when I created the corn cake and it came out just perfect, and on the grill, out of all the things, especially being a pastry chef, I'm like, come on. I mean, I can't turn the oven at 350, so you got to really manage this fire well. That to me was like a blessing, just getting that corn cake out. And it was infused with 5 leches de elote, which I infused 5 different milks with the corn cobs, and that was the 5 milks were representing my siblings and I. And so it was like a full circle family affair with that menu.
Man, sounds like an incredible weekend, historically, competitively, familially. I don't think that's a word. What's next for you? You've knocked down World Food Championships. You knocked down Memphis in May. Do we want to do a little American Royal? Maybe snag a Jack here? Like, what's next?
Well, we actually do have a couple of cool projects that we're going to unveil here pretty shortly with the family. We're starting our family brand, but I don't know if I can announce it just yet. I just know that it's going to be here soon, right. And you guys will be the first to know. And it's going to be exciting. It'll involve the whole family win. So
is the name of the company going to be All I Do Is Win? Get it? Probably not.
Yes.
All right. Any competitions coming up that you guys are going to be taking part in?
As far as I know, I think this was the end for this semester, but I do know I got invited in October maybe to go back somewhere. I'm not going to say where, but I will reveal that later as well.
All right. Well, this is Emma Nguyen, and the team of the Culinary Charm has won the first ever Open Fire World Championships. Emma, just an honor to have you on the show tonight. Again, I appreciate the quick turnaround from this past weekend. Continued success, and would love to have you on the show, and would obviously love to have Preston on the show, so maybe I'll shoot you a quick note after the fact, and we can line them up in the coming weeks.
Sounds great. Thank you, Greg.
All right, thank you. Emma Nguyen, right there. Holy moly. Nothing better than talking with Mike McLeod and him raving about Preston Nguyen and how, there has never been a 2-time winner at World Food Championships. And here I am having a sound check with Emma last night, and Preston is like right there on the can. I saw him, and I didn't even register anywhere on the radar just until she's like, oh yeah, World Food Championships, won that too. Wait, that's again, all they do is win. Again, not to draw that song back up, but I mean, it just makes so much sense. Crazy, crazy times here on the Barbecue Central show, and we congratulate the whole Culinary Charm team on the big win this past weekend. I am working on a Heath Rawls interview in the coming weeks, but where I can instant message Emma and turn her in 72 hours, it appears my direct connection to Heath isn't there anymore, and now I have to make a pitch to somebody on Heath's team. All right, I'll pitch. Can you send me an email a little more info on the show that Heath has been on like 5 times over his life? Sure, no problem. I'll do that. I'm not bigger than pitching. I pitch. I sell every day. All right, well, I don't sell every day anymore, but I did. All right, we will come back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we are back, and we thank Emma Nguyen for joining us last segment. The website, by the way, if you want to check it out, theculinarycharm.com, and she's also on Instagram, of course. Checking out a little bit of the Cavs game here as we get ready to break out of hour number 1. Ooh, up 13! Hey-o! Hey-o! 2.5 minutes. It looks like they just called a timeout because they were going to run into an 8-second call, getting it over the timeline. Getting over the timeline, little battle. Good. Well, then the Cavs are going well. I thought if we're going to steal a game on the road, it's going to be this one. The Knicks have been off for the better part of 8 weeks after they mowed through rounds 1 and 2. Especially Philly. 76ers, you guys sucked. The Cavs just played the other night. No rust here. We're primed. We're, as they say in the biz, peaking. And the Knicks got to get back in gear. So if we can steal one on the road, now it's a series. It's not a series until the road team wins. Now, there's still a quarter and 2.5 minutes left. Plenty of time to puke it back to the Knicks. They get it going, and who knows what can happen. Denver Cavins on Facebook just listed a mole sauce recipe. I have mixed feelings about Denver being on my Facebook feed. I thought I banned him after he took a drunken rage run at me a number of years ago. fifth of bourbon in hand, juggling out, and then just giving it to me. That was a beauty, man. That was a beauty. All right, we're pointing to the second hour. Great interviews. We'll get a poll question of the week update. So stick around. We'll be right back.